Our first step is to roll our clay into a nice sphere shape and soften it with the palms of our hands. We can smooth out any cracks when we're doing this too. That will help the pinch pot be nice and smooth when it starts to open up. And then once we are ready, we're going to place that sphere into our non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so I'm putting it into my left hand. And then I'm going to use my thumb and really try to put it right in the center, smack dab in the middle. So I'm going to look and find the center and push it straight in, about 3/4 of the way in. And if you're not sure if it's in the center, just kind of pull your thumb out and double check. And if one side looks a little thicker, put your thumb back in and kind of try to recenter it around that thumb so that all the sides look pretty even before it starts to open up at all. We want our thumb to be about 3/4 of the way into the sphere. So if you're not sure how deep your thumb is, you can kind of turn it on the side and look at it that way and kind of mark where your thumb goes to, and then put it next to your sphere and see how deep that goes. And then you can judge and see how much deeper you need to go. We want it to be about 3/4 of the way in so that the bottom of our pinch pot ends up being about a half or between 1/4 and 1/2 of an inch. Okay, so we're starting with our thumb inside. We can pull that sphere down around our thumb if we needed to go a little deeper. And then we're going to pretend like the fingers are glued together, kind of like we're wearing a very tight little mitten on our hand. So our fingers are kind of one unit. Our thumb is going to go back inside, and we're going to squeeze our thumb into our fingers through the clay to start even and slowly thinning out the walls of that pinch pot. For this part, we want to move really slowly and really try to squeeze gentle. We'll be able to control how it opens up a little bit more and kind of think about how we're forming it. If we move too fast, it's going to open wide open and kind of, it could just flop open and become more of a plate than a cup shape. This is the point where it actually sometimes helps to close your eyes because you can really pay attention to what you're feeling. You can pay attention to how thick or thin the walls of the pot are and really try to squeeze a little bit more in the thicker areas and squeeze a little bit less in the thinner areas. So I'm squeezing and turning, and as I'm doing this, I'm not just staying in one place, like not just in the middle, not just at the top, not just at the bottom. I'm kind of relocating my thumb, so I'm squeezing maybe a little deeper and I go around once, squeezing in the middle, maybe I go around once, squeezing around the top. We don't want that top edge to become really, really paper thin. We want it to stay the same thickness as all the sides and the bottom and everything. We also want to think about, at this point where it's still a little bit thick and we can still determine the shape a bit more, what shape we want our speaker to be. If we want it to open up and then come back inward, then we might want to really be thinking about that and kind of pulling the clay in that direction. This is also where our phone is going to go. So we need to make sure that the base of this pinch pot is wider than our phone, because we're going to need to create an opening in that place to insert our phone. And remember that clay shrinks about 10% as it dries. So we actually need to make that opening a tiny bit bigger than our phone. We want to keep our clay a little bit on the thicker side today because it will be stronger and it can hold its shape better. If we get those thin spots, remember there's two different ways we can repair it. One is just pressing it back together, just really slowly and kind of controlled will help that thin part thicken back up. And then we can spread and smooth. If it created a little crack, just smooth it back over itself. The other way that we can repair if it gets really, really thin is by actually tearing it very carefully down that thin area and then pressing it back together and overlapping it slightly so that we can press those two thinner pieces together to make it thicker in that spot again.